Begin the current Daf Mesech Kesuvos Daf Mem Zayin. We begin on the last two words on Mem Vav Mem Beis. We continue to explain the halacha by Mishnah. We talk about the rights that the father has in his daughter. What's the sources for these halacha that the father has the rights in his daughter? Today's Daf. Something is discussed in today's Daf are the sources for a father's chus, like we said, to his daughter's benefits. Each one specifically we go through. Machlekes if a father collects his daughter's parents, although in our Mishnah we said not. We're going to bring a machlekes in the Gemara. The takans come of various obligations of a husband to his wife, and their reasons for that also. The machlekes regarding chiv mezenis da'iraisa, that the husband's obligation of support as a biblical source, and we're going to see that halacha. So from the previous stuff, we said in the Mishnah, Zakai b'mitziasa. So the Gemara begins, the last words on the Mevama Beis, that he merits, this is talking about a father for his daughter, he gets her found object. What's the reason? So the Gemara continues to top Mem Zayin Madav, which the way Rashi explains it, is Mishum Eva. Is because since biblically he's not obligated to feed his daughter, if you're going to say what she finds goes to her, so there's going to be some type of enmity, there's going to be some type of hatred between father and daughter, and he's not going to feed her anymore. So because of that, what she finds, it's out there, found this, whatever, so he gets it, and that therefore he won't not feed her. Now the Mishnah said, her earnings, she made money, so that goes to the father. Says where do we know that from? Says, how do you know that the earnings of the daughter goes to the father? Because says busing in Shemais. It says again, like we brought in the previous stuff. When the man's going to sell his daughter as a maidservant, so we're comparing a daughter to the maidservant. Ma'am is just like a maidservant, whatever she earns goes to her master. Obviously, that's what a slave woman is. Avbasa to a daughter, her earnings go to her father. Says maybe that's only by a minor, where the father could sell his daughter as a maidservant for an amma of a nara, but by a girl that's 12 to 12 and a half to that he cannot sell her. She actually goes free as a naira. Maybe then her earnings should be for herself. Our Mishnah was saying that when she's a katana and a naira, how do we know it's even by a naira? It says the Gemara logic would tell us that a girl's earnings when she's a naira goes to her father. Why? These are you think to say that her earnings don't go to her father. Ella, the Gemara has an interesting proof. This that the father has a right to give her over to chuppah, to get her get married, like the pasuk says, as biti nasati. All the nesinos seem to be included all the way to the chuppah, even for a naira. Now, that day of the chasna, she's not working. How could he go and give her over to get married? He's stopping her from doing her job, from working that day. Obviously, her ma'aseh are hers. So the Gemara says, really? That's how you know that her ma'aseh go to the father? Because he could tell her when to get married, and then she's not working, so you see he has the rights over her job? So Rabbi Shloimy asked, even the okay, maybe he's paying her for the loss of that work of that day. Or maybe the muscle maybe he's chasna is at night time when she's not working. Or maybe she's getting married on Shabbos Yom Tov, which Taisa discusses. Although the Gemara might cut and tells us not get married on Yom Tov, even the Cholamoid you cannot get married, which is a bona fide drasha, it's da'iraisa. Taisa says, no, maybe we mean like a one moment, like an hour before Yom Tov, which that's like Yom Tov already regarding Taisa's Yom Tov, and therefore it's then, or maybe it's talking about that the father just gave her over to the Shluchi Abal, or was maybe a chasna without a suda, where although this simcha, it's not such a simcha, whatever, so therefore maybe there wouldn't be a problem with getting married Yom Tov. But Akabonim, there's no loss of work, because it's Shabbos and Yom Tov, maybe they're getting married then, and so how could that be the source of saying that her ma'aseh dam because the father get married and she's not working the day of the chasna?
But he's still causing that whatever she makes after she gets married goes to the husband instead of to her. So it's not only being mafsed whatever she would have made the time of the chasna.
That's an interesting point, that when she gets married, that you're saying that should show that he has the rights to her earnings, because when she gets married it's going to the husband, but not even going to the father. So when she gets married, is that a default, or that's an automatic? It's an interesting point, that how could he do that? Causing her that now she gets married, whatever she earns goes. But even that really doesn't all go to the husband, because really she could say, she could say, I don't need your sustenance, and my handiwork is going to go to myself. So really, whatever the woman makes, According to many, it's not even going to go to the husband. She could decide, don't feed me and you don't get what I make. So Elurana says to the Gemara, no. The question that you had of say, wait a second, maybe when did we say the earnings go to the father is by a minor because he could sell her as a amma and not by a naira where he could not sell her as a amma because the pasuk that we're learning out from is bitui la'amma is only comparing it to an amma. Says the Gemara, no, it can't be that you're telling me only for katana. Why not? Because katana litzricha kra. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that the earnings of a minor goes to the father. Why not? Hashda is when the mazman law. If you could sell her as a shifcha, do I need to tell you that the earnings go to him? I wouldn't even need you to tell me that. Of course, I could sell you as a maid. Obviously, if the pasuk is telling me a comparison of bitui la'amma must be lanara, because it can't tell me katana. Of course, a katana I get your earnings. I can tell you as a amma. Must be if there's some bitui that I need you to tell me is a naira. Now Rashi is bothered by the question. It says, what do you mean? But the primary pasuk is talking about a katana. Says Rashi, yes, but it's an extra pasuk that's comparing bitui la'amma, right? Obviously, bitui la'amma is the katana, but what are we learning out in the comparison is the extra words of comparison must be telling you a naira because katana I don't need you to teach anything. Now the Mishnah then said another thing the father has rights to is about Faras Nadurel. He can nullify his daughter's vows. Where do we know that from? Because the Siva says the pasuk in Midbar in the parasha of Faras Nadurel of nullifying of vows, it says binoreha, that when she is a naira, base avia, she's in her father's household, which means she's in her father's domain. Now Rashi says, wait a second, if you're going to say, what do you need to learn that from Minera base avia? There's an explicit pasuk says kiheni avia isa. Pasuk says when the father's going to stop her, I need to learn now from Minera base avia. Says Rashi, no. If not for Minera base avia, I would have said that when it says imheni avia isa, that's by katana. How do I know it's referring to even by a naira? From Binoreha, that when she's in her youth, base avia in her father's house, the father has dominion over her to nullify her vows. The next thing we said in the Mishnah was a mekabeles kita, where, as we said from Rashi in the Mishnah, if she was only engaged and she's not yet a begetter, so she's still in her father's domain, and now the chassan is giving her a get, the father could receive the get to get a divorce. Says Yimam, where do we know that from? It says in the pasuk in a different context, a woman, she leaves one husband and she gets married to another one. We're comparing leaving to coming. Just like regarding coming, we said that the father has the rights in Kesuvos Daf, so too regarding leaving, getting the get, the father has the rights to that also. Now we said in the Mishnah, but the father, however, in contrast to the husband, as we're going to say in a moment, he does not get to, let's say his daughter inherited something from her late mother, a piece of property, and she has all these trees and all these fruits growing in this whole field over there. The father does not eat the payers of his daughter when she's alive. However, that's the Tana in our Mishnah. But Tana in the Bryce is actually machlekes. The Tana Kama says, like our Mishnah, the father does not eat the produce of his daughter's field when she's alive. Yehuda may disagree. He says, no, the father does eat the produce of her field when she's alive. Says, what are they disagreeing about? He says, I'll tell you what. Tana Kama of the Tana, who'd like the Tana of Mishnah holds, Bishlam and I understand the husband. To king and later on the yes, the rabbis instituted that the husband should be able to eat the produce of the wife's property, because then Cain, if that's the case, if you're not going to institute this, mimni b'lei parik, he's going to hold back and he's not going to redeem her when she's taken in captivity. So therefore, they instituted that he gets paid, as the Gemara tells us later on Namid Beis, pirkoina tachas peidos saha, which that the peidos the husband eats, so that now all the responsibility of redeeming her is on him, whether it's a lot or a little. Because if you're going to say that no, just put away the peidos, and you'll use that money to redeem her when she's ever taken captivity, sometimes that can be enough. Now, however, they say, I'm always in the paydas. Okay, it's my responsibility to redeem her. Well, whatever the ransom money is, if it's $1 million, I got to do that. Even though I only had 150,000 of paydas, doesn't make a difference. But but the father, what are you going to say? He's going to hold back and not going to redeem his daughter? Nah. Of course, no father is not going to redeem his daughter. We don't have to institute to give him paydas from his daughter's property to make him redeem. A husband, a cult. Father, no. Therefore, we didn't institute payers. But he held no. A father also will hold back and will not redeem. Why? So he's thinking like this. He says, Kisei, there's a purse full of money, because all the payers of her field that she's wheeling and dealing, Nikita Ilove, that she has as a trust fund. Up until this point, no, I didn't see a penny from her payers. Let her go and redeem herself. And if it's not enough, I will not supplement it. So therefore, Rabbi Yisrael held that no, even for the father, you have to give him paydas. Because he's going to feel, what? All her money, all the thing that she got from her mother's the estate, and I'm out of this, the whole company, I have nothing to do with it, and now suddenly she's taken into captivity, I have to redeem her. Therefore, that was the machlekes regarding would a father be like that or not. Do we have to institute that he gets paid as the husband? We know we have to. Father, yes or no, that's a machlekes tanoi. Now the Mishnah said, okay, however, in contrast, Nissus, when she gets married, yes or no, the husband has more rights than the father, where he gets to eat the peiris in contrast to the father. Now, regarding the rights of the husband, cost of law, it's a related discussion. If the father had put into the nadin in the ksuba that she's bringing to her husband movable items, for example, peiris, a bunch of produce, or ksus, clothing, bekalim, and vessels, and they were all written to her from when they got engaged. And the father wrote this, that they should go with her from her father's household to her husband's house. Now, Mesa, this is the way Rashi learns it, she died when they were engaged, when she was engaged. So, says the Tanakh, the husband doesn't get the rights to these things. This Kalo, who's coming with all this stuff to the marriage, died when they were engaged, he doesn't get this. They said, no, the husband does get all this furniture and all this stuff, he acquires all these things. Says the Gemara, that is, that the one who holds that the husband inherits her dowry from the engagement is like the Rabbanan that say that if he dies, she will collect everything, meaning, what's everything? The chassan, when they're engaged, wrote a ksuba. So there's the 100, 200, if she's the Basulabul, and then there's what's called Tesevis, the add-ons. She will get that ksuba with the add-ons, even if he dies as a chatan. Now, obviously we see that the ksuba is valid as if they got married, even though they didn't get married. So, same thing is if she dies, he will inherit her dowry, because she's also written in the document, because that's how they write in the ksuba. This is the dowry that she's bringing from her father's house with kach v'kach, this and this. And they want, and he adds on from him this and this and more. So this is also like the similar halach of the ksuba. What's this machlekes that we're referring to that is the same machlekes from whether he dies or she dies? It's not like learn the Mishnah later on the Nandalma base. Mishnah tells us Nesarmala in the scholarship, if a woman gets widowed or divorced, whether from marriage or whether only even just being engaged, the Tanakama says she gets everything. She gets not only the 100, 200, which is the basic, she even gets the add-ons. Whereas Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says no. If they already married, then she gets the whole ksuba. When the Eirazim, they only engage, then she only gets the basic premium. She only gets the basic bisula, which is good Messiah. If she was a virgin, she gets 200. Almana, which is a widow, Almana, she gets 100. Why? As you continue to the base, Shalai Kasavla, because the husband did not write her all this add-ons. Elamanasu Kain, so only with the intention of getting consummating this relationship, getting married. He never got married. He died as a chassan. She's not going to get these extras. So the Gemara explains that's the same machlekes we're having here. Lamandam, according to one that says the loizacham, that the husband does not acquire the rights of these assets that the kala is bringing in, and she dies when she's a kala. That's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That he said that no, he didn't write a ksuba only with the intention of getting married to her. No, the 100, 200 that the rabbis instituted, okay, that she's going to get. But whatever he's writing on his own volition, that she's not going to get until they got married. So she also was not writing to him, but all the slave that she's bringing to him, that's only also with the intention of the endearment of getting married. So if she died as a kala, he's not going to get this stuff. Just like when he dies as the chassan, she's not getting those extras. It's about the one that says that no, that he does acquire the rights. It's like the Rabban who says yes, no matter if you're widowed or divorced from engagement, it's the same thing as married. So to the other way around, he'll also get it, even if she dies during engagement. So the Gemara says, "Loy, not necessarily." The Kulam, you could say that everybody, meaning these two Tanoim that we're mentioning over here, is Kribloza ben Azari. Why are we trying to say like Kribloza ben Azari? Because Rashi says we rule the halacha like him later on of the Vavam Aleph. So the Gemara is attempting to show that actually both are like Kribloza ben Azari. Not that it's the machlekes between him and the Rabban. So how do we understand it? Manda Malay Zachar, the one that says that the husband has no rights for it, well, that's obviously Kribloza ben Azari. That he holds that you need to have marriage, and that's why the woman does not get the Tesefes of Biksuba if the chassan died before they got married. But how do we understand the Manda Mazach? How could that be even like Kribloza ben Azari, that the husband gets these things even that the Kala died when they were just engaged? Because Ad Kan like Kribloza ben Azari, where do we find his teaching from him to her? What the chassan had set for the Kala in the Ksuba, that Tesefes, that's where he says she doesn't get if he died when they were engaged, because he's only writing it to her with the intention of consummating the relationship. The chassan wants to finally get married, that's what he wants. But from the Kala side, from her to him, I feel that Rabbi ben Azari might even he would agree that just getting engaged was enough for them to be mazaket to him, and even if she dies as a Kala, he's still going to get all the furniture, all the stuff that they're bringing. Why? Because the Mishum Ichtunehu, what the Kala wants is different than what the Chassan wants. The Chassan wants to consummate this relationship. The Kala just wants to get married. And she already got a Chatan, she already got engaged. So there's two different perceptions over here in this engagement process. The Chassan wants to be consummating this relationship, the girl just is so happy, I'm engaged. And therefore, they're for different things that they have in mind that they're giving over to the other side. So the chassan's only going to give over when they get married, and whereas the kala is going to give it over even if they just get engaged. And that explains the discrepancy, how you could even be like Rabbi ben Azariah, even though you hold that loy zacha. Now we said in the Mishnah that chayv b'mzen neseh v'chulu. Now the husband has certain obligations that the father doesn't even have, that he has to his wife. And there's mezainis, etc. There's a bunch of different things that he said he's responsible for. So the Gemara brings a brisa to explain the source for these obligations. Talking about the brisa, tiknu mezainis seha. They instituted that the husband has to feed her. Tachas ma'aseh yedeh, which place has a discussion of what the orders are, which one came first. But be that as it may, that since her earnings go to the husband, so he has to feed her. So to kfurasa, he has to bury her tachas ksubasa, because there's an adunya that she brings into him, which is written in the document of the ksuba, which he yarshins her. So in place of that, that imposes the obligation of him to bury her. And that's why the husband eats the produce of his wife's assets. Says the Gemara, what? Peres man lekashmai? Who mentioned anything about Peres to say lefikach? Gemara says, you're right. There's words missing here from the Bryce, and this is how it's supposed to say. It's actually supposed to talk about three different things. Tiknum is in this, they instituted she gets fed because of that her earnings go to her. When she works a hard job, it goes straight to the husband's bank account. That's why he has to feed her. He has to give her the credit card to go shopping. Upukaina, he has to redeem her. This is what wasn't mentioned, but it has to be there. He has to redeem her when she's taking captivity tachas peidos, because he eats from her nichsim melug. Nichsim melug are properties that she doesn't bring into the ksuba, where those fell for her either when she got married or it was beforehand, which were not evaluated in the nadin of the ksuba. He gets to eat the pace, he gets the utility of that. So therefore that utility requires him to redeem her. And yet the obligation to bury her, that goes for what is mentioned in nadin in the ksuba, that he yarshins her after what she brought into the marriage, afterwards, therefore he has the obligation to bury her. That's why the husband needs the pay. So the Gemara says, "My lafikach." What's lafikach? You already mentioned. You said that the peidos is tachas the ksuba. The pirkoin is tachas the peidos. So what do you have to say lafikach? Says Gemara, "Ma'adetemo." Would you say mechaloi nechlenu? No. Maybe you would say that no. Let him not eat the peidos. Rather, anuche nanchino. Leave the peidos where they are. Because the imkain, because if you're going to say that he eats the peidos, mimna malay parak, so he uses up all our properties, he used the utility, and then when it comes time to redeem her, he's not going to redeem her. So leave the money over there that we have in a separate account of peidos, that if something happens, we'll have way to redeem her. Kamash Malan, that's what's saying that no, the hadifa, it's better that he does eat up the peidos. Why? Because at times, there's actually not going to be enough of the peidos to redeem her. Now that he ate it and he doesn't know how much he consumed, Okay, he's going to go to his own bank account. And that's exactly what they had in mind when they instituted that he should eat it, whether it's a lot or a little bit, because now he's going to have to redeem it no matter how much it is. So to the contrary, you would have thought, say, well, that's lafika chayil pears. We want him to eat the pears. You would have thought, say, yeah, he has the rights to eat the pears, but no, leave it. And because we don't want him to eat it, because what's going to happen? He's not going to have money. No, we want him to eat it so that he doesn't know how much, and then he's going to have to redeem it no matter how much it is. Now the Gemara says, how do you know that these things are in place of these things? Maybe pump fakir, maybe say that the reason why she gets fed from the husband is because he eats the paytas. Maybe the reason why you have to redeem her is because that her earnings go to him. What's the difference? What's the klutz kasha? So Rashi says the difference is, if let's say she says, which is the classic Talmudic right that the woman has, that we'll see later on the Einim Abayz, she says, I don't want to get fed from you, and I don't want my earnings to go to you. Then she hasn't said anything, because the mezainis is not in place of the ma'asidayim. So it's important to know what's in place of what. So how do you know that it's mezainis and ma'asidayim? Maybe it is per koine tachas ma'asidayim. So Mabai says no. It's logical that tiknu matzu lamatzu. They instituted which is common for that which is common, meaning a woman getting fed from a husband, and the earnings that she makes are common things. However, what's not common is for the one that's not common. A woman taken in captivity and the woman having her own private properties of nixim elug are also not common. So therefore it makes sense that it's per koina tachas peder seha, and there was the mezainis tachas the ma'asidai. So up until now we had brought that her mezainis seems to be rabbinic, where because he's getting her ma'asidayim, he has to feed her. However, Amar Rabbi says, Haitana, that we're going to bring right now, Sava holds mezainis midiraisa. Actually, Taisa asks, seems like all the Tanaim hold this deraisa. Where do we get our Gemara saying it's rabbinic? But Akapanim, the Tana we're going to quote right now holds that the woman getting fed is actually a biblical obligation, not a rabbinic obligation, because he's getting her earnings. The Tana like the Braisa, where the first interpretation, the point is there's going to be many different interpretations how to explain this pasuk. This pasuk is regarding the Jewish maidservant. It says if he takes another one, he has to make sure that he does not diminish her she'er, her ksos, and her oina. Lo yikra. Now the question is how to translate these words. So the first opinion says like this: she'era, what's that? Elu mezainis. That refers to her sustenance. So this is the biblical source. You see that a wife, which is what this amavriya is that he married, you have to make sure you cannot diminish the she'er, which is mezainis. So this is the source that's biblical. How do you see that she'er means mezainis? It means food. Because v'chein oim, it says the pasuk in Micha, that my people ate the she'er. You see that she'er is something that you eat, which is mezainis. And ksusa, what does that mean? That means literally like you can't diminish the clothing that she needs. And oinasa, what is that? This refers to the oina, which is the said time that one has to be intimate with his wife, written in the Torah. Like it says the pasuk in Bereshis, that Lavan says to Yaakov, if you're going to afflict my daughters, which is that you're not going to have tashmish with them, which Tais explained that must mean that something that if you held back, it would be considered ma'ana. So that refers to oina. Oina is that thing of that you would hold back would be torturous, which is intimacy. You see that that's the third thing you cannot hold back, which is also biblical, is that you have to have oina, you have to have the marital, conjugal rights that a woman has from a husband. That's one interpretation. Rabbi Shloimy says the second interpretation. She'era is actually zu oina. He actually says she'er is not food, it's actually the oina. It's actually the conjugal obligations that the husband has. Like it says the pasuk in Yikra. It says ish, every man, I'll call she'er besavai, to every relative of his flesh, should not come close to reveal the nakedness. So you see that she'er is a reference of intimacy. So that's referring to oina. Kesus, he agrees that kesus means literally like it is. And he says, he says the exact opposite. They both agreeing to the same point, but they're translating the two different words, the opposite. He says, like it says, in this week's parasha, it says, that he's going to afflict you and he's going to starve you, he's going to give you the month to eat. So you see, is referring to achila, which is referring to mezainis. We continue top of Memches and Aleph. But Yaakov, he says a third interpretation. He says she'era is near the word kesusa, right? It says she'era kesusa by nasa. So he learns by quoting the words near each other. She'era kesusa. What does that mean? Lafum she'era, according to her flesh, because that's what she'er besari meant, the flesh of the the flesh or whatever, but it's according to that she'er, tank susa. That's how you should give the garment. What does that mean? Shleitin lad, you shouldn't give the wife. Lo yishal yiladu lezekena. Don't give her a young girl's outfit to an elderly woman. Lo yishal zekena lo yiladu. Don't give an elderly woman a young woman's outfit. The reason for that is because an elderly woman, it's difficult for her heavy loads. She cannot tolerate these wide, flashy garments of the young ones because they're heavy. And a young woman needs these wide, elegant garments to beautify herself, so the elderly women ones wouldn't work for her. So that's where we have she'era to ksusa, according to her body. That's how you have to give her the clothing. And then you have ksusa va'inasa. Here again, according to this interpretation, the primary part is coming teacher regarding the ksus. It's just comparing it to she'era and oina. So ksusa va'inasa is lafum aynasa. According to the time period of the year, if it's summertime or wintertime, that's how think susa. That's how you have to give her a garment, which is shlitin chadashim. You shouldn't give new clothing, which are warmer, more than worn out clothing. Don't buy her a new outfit in the summertime, and don't give her the old worn out ones in the winter, because it's not going to make her warm enough. One more interpretation. Tana Rabbi Yosef, he has a fourth interpretation. She'era, he says, zukir basa. What does it mean, she'er? Like we said, she'er basa. It's actually referring to the closeness of the flesh, which shleyinik ba'minik parsim, they should not conduct with his wife the way the Persians would. They have intimacy with their clothing, and that's what it's telling you, she'er la'igra, that he has to have skin to skin. That's supposed to Rapun. He says, "Oh, if someone says, I can't. It's too much for me. It's this closeness. I could only do it if I'm wearing my clothing and she's with her clothing." He has to divorce him, he has to pay up the ksuba, because the halacha requires she'era, the she'er basa, it has to have no barriers between husband and wife, and that's what the pasuk is teaching of she'era, of kiru basa. Thank you to anytime.